Stop for a moment the inertia of your life. Listen with the part of you that does not belong to time, nor to space, nor to the labels that the world has imposed on you. If this audio has reached your ears at this precise moment, it is not due to a whim of fate, nor a fortuitous error in the network. It is a collapse of probabilities orchestrated by your own vibratory frequency. You have ceased to be a seeker to become the encounter. What you have before you is not a self-help book, nor a compilation of motivational phrases to console the ego. This is Forbidden Metaphysics, the protocols of the divine self. For eons, humanity has walked in circles, begging for crumbs of power from external gods, from the teachers of the moment, and from belief systems that only prosper thanks to your own blindness. You have been taught to ask, to plead, to wait for a force outside of you to decide if you are worthy of abundance or health. That is the primary lie, the original design of an invisible prison that feeds on your spiritual servitude. But today, that cycle of beggary ends. You are about to receive the technical protocols to dismantle the architecture of human limitation and reclaim, by right of consciousness, your throne as the sole architect. Here we are not going to ask the universe for permission. We are going to inform matter who is in charge. Most of the people who begin to hear these words will flee before finishing the first chapter. Their ego, that fragile construction of fears and memories, will feel threatened by the icy truth of their own omnipotence. They will prefer the warmth of their known cell to the luminous abyss of their absolute freedom. But not you. If you have made it this far, it is because you have felt that uncomfortable fire in your chest, that piercing certainty that the world you see is only a veil of liquid crystal waiting to be molded by a will that does not doubt. In this journey, we are going to commit the most radical act of all. We are going to murder the seeker who believes they are missing something, so that the divine self, which already has everything, can finally open its eyes. You will learn that matter is not solid, but a plastic and programmable substance that reacts to your gaze. You will discover that time is a servant that you can dilate at your whim, and that scarcity is only a frequency error in your operating system. Do not try to understand this with the cold logic of the intellect. Absorb it by resonance. Let these words seep into your cellular structure and awaken the memory of what you have always been. Do not seek comfort, seek command. Do not seek hope, seek decree. You are about to discover that knowledge was never hidden. You simply were not vibrating high enough to perceive it. Welcome home. Welcome to the beginning of your sovereignty. The veil disintegrates, the noise fades, and your mandate over existence begins right now. Listen until the end, because when you finish, the being who pressed play on this audio will no longer exist, and in its place the Creator will have awakened. Chapter 1. The Great Spiritual Parasite. You have taken the first step toward the abyss of your own freedom, a territory where the moral compasses of the ordinary world cease to function, and where the air you breathe no longer belongs to the atmosphere of the masses. But before you can even dream of building an empire that does not crumble, we must commit the most radical act. We must burn the beggar's hut to its deepest foundations. The first protocol of sovereignty is not the acquisition of new powers, nor the accumulation of magical decrees, nor the search for heavenly blessings. It is the radical extraction of the parasite of spiritual servitude. This is the essential cleansing of your internal architecture. For millennia, human consciousness has been domesticated through one of the most sophisticated, elegant, and lethal traps of the Matrix: the psychological need for an external father. The great spiritual parasite is not an act of blind hatred, nor a teenage rebellion against the sacred. It is an act of high-precision technical hygiene. It is the exact moment in which the divine self cuts the umbilical cord that binds it to gods, masters, egregores, and belief systems that have thrived by feeding on its own seeded energy. As long as a single altar exists outside of your chest, your power will be fragmented. As long as you seek approval in the stars, you are an inhabitant. You will remain a mere tenant in your own existence, paying a rent of devotion to lords that you yourself have created. Most beings walk the earth with a massive leak of vitality, an invisible bleeding that keeps them in a state of perpetual spiritual anemia. This leak occurs every time you raise a prayer of supplication or beg, the anatomy of voluntary servitude. Every time you ask permission from the universe, as if it were an entity separate from you with its own will, you are informing the resonant field that you are not the original source, but a subject waiting for alms. The resonant field, which is a mathematical and perfect mirror of your internal decree, has no choice. It must treat you as such. It returns delays, obstacles, and a sense of emotional debt to destiny. It keeps you in the anteroom of creation, waiting for a signal that will never arrive, because you are the signal. Spiritual parricide consists of recognizing that there is no one above you. In the real architecture of consciousness, there is nothing outside of you. The gods that humanity worships are only projections of its own exiled power, fragments of divinity that men placed in the sky because it was too heavy to hold them on earth. Understand the mechanics of the deception. You have been taught to love your jailers. You have been told that you are a small creature, a biological accident, a grain of sand in a dangerous cosmos, and that your only hope lies in the benevolence of superior forces. This narrative is the operating system of lack. It creates an unbridgeable gap between you and your capacity for decree. By placing the source on a distant altar, you have created a distance that the ego tries to fill with rituals, merits, and unnecessary sacrifices. The divine self does not worship the light. The divine self is the light that makes the perception of any altar possible. Your sovereignty begins by reclaiming that original light. The egregore, the machinery of psychic vampirism. You must understand what actually happens to the energy you seed under the name of faith. In the plane of collective consciousness, there exist structures called egregores. They are massive thought forms, high-frequency parasites that stay alive thanks to the attention and emotional charge of millions of beings. When you pray to a specific deity or adhere fervently to an ideology, you are not sending your intention to the infinite. You are delivering it to a psychic accumulator that uses that fuel to perpetuate its own control. These egregores operate as metaphysical corporations. In exchange for comfort, they steal your command. They offer a peace that is actually sedation, keeping you vibrating in the frequency of the child, the disciple, or the follower. But a follower, by definition, can never be an architect. The architect designs, the follower inhabits the design of another. For the divine self to take the throne, the egregore must starve. You must stop feeding it with your attention. You must look at the firmament and, instead of seeking a savior, recognize that the brightness of the stars is only a reflection of the internal combustion of your own consciousness. Parricide is the act of pulling those connection cables and plugging them back into your own core. The solitude of the throne, the price of sovereign freedom. Many initiates draw back terrified by this protocol because they fear the radical solitude it entails. The idea of having no one to ask for help in moments of crisis terrifies the biological machine conditioned for the herd. The ego prefers to be a protected slave with a master to blame or to beg. The ego fears being an absolute sovereign responsible for every atom of its experience. However, forbidden metaphysics is not for those seeking protection. It is for those seeking command. The solitude of the throne is not isolation. It is the state of maximum purity. It is the moment external interference finally goes silent. You are left alone with yourself in the empty center of your universe. It is in this absolute silence, stripped of the crutch of faith, where you discover the most prescribed truth. The help you believed you received never came from outside. It was always your own sovereign will giving itself permission to act. By eliminating the intermediary, you eliminate the delay. The sovereign does not ask. The sovereign informs. Operative protocol, reclaiming command. To execute the great spiritual parricide, you must perform a ruthless audit of your leaks of authority. Identify every corner of your psyche where you still feel like a tenant. Disconnection from debt. Cut the idea that you owe anything to ancestors or gods. You are not the result of a past. You are the origin of a present. Withdraw all recognition of external authority. By stripping them of the title Lord, you regain the title of owner. Neutralization of karma. Karma is often a collection tool for egregores. The divine self knows no karma, only frequency feedback. If something is chaotic, it is not a punishment, it is a calculation error in your architecture. Correct the frequency and the debt disappears. Assumption of the sole cause. This is the seal of the chapter. Establish as a fundamental law that you are the only legislative authority in your sphere of influence. There is no bad luck or will of God opposing yours, for your will is the source operating through you. The awakening of the divine orphan. Upon finishing this demolition process, you will feel a strange void, a lightness that can be confused with helplessness. Do not be mistaken. That void is the sacred space necessary for the installation of the command protocols that follow. You have killed the external father to become your own origin. You have ceased to be a creature to become the creator in practice. The spiritual childhood of humanity has ended for you. You have become the divine orphan, the one who has no owners in the sky because he himself is the sky. This is the end of servitude. The parasite has been extracted. The cables are cut. Now, for the first time, the resonant field is listening to your real voice, a voice that does not tremble and does not ask. You are at the 0 point of your new sovereignty. You own a territory that seems like a desert of silence, but soon it will be populated by the forms you choose to project from your own light. The beggar's hut must burn completely for the palace of the divine self to have solid foundations. The silence you experience now is the pressure of your own omnipotence waiting for direction. Inhabit this absolute independence. In the next chapter, you will learn that matter is a docile veil waiting for your order. The great parasite has concluded. The king has awakened. Chapter 2. The anatomy of the false reality, the atomic veil. You have executed the great parricide. You have cut the cables of external devotion and accepted the solitude of the throne. But now that command resides in your center, you face the most persistent adversary of sovereignty, the evidence of your own senses. This requires the total demolition of the oldest superstition of the human species. The second protocol of Forbidden Metaphysics demands the destruction of the belief in the solidity and independence of matter. For the divine self, the physical world is not an immovable structure of granite and iron. It is the atomic veil, a low-frequency sensory interpretation held together by the glue of your own programmed ignorance. The reality you perceive through your biological senses is, in technical terms, a simplified and deceptive user interface. Just as an icon on a computer screen hides millions of lines of complex binary code, the objects you touch and see hide an ocean of pure potential that vibrates at speeds your animal nervous system cannot process. You have been trained to believe that what you touch is the truth, when in fact what you touch is only the solid residue of a previous consciousness instruction that is cooled until it crystallized. If you want to mold the world, you must first stop respecting it. You must withdraw the attribute of reality from it. You must begin to treat it as the plastic, docile, and secondary substance that it truly is. The human biological machine is, in essence, a filtering and reduction device. Your brain does not have the function of showing you what is out there. Its function is to show you what is safe and useful for the animal to survive in scarcity. The senses have been programmed to detect solidity as a warning signal. A wall is solid, so you don't try to walk through it. The ground is firm, so you can run. Fire is hot, so you don't disintegrate. But the architect knows that this solidity is a low-resolution electromagnetic hallucination. It is a biological survival mechanism. From a technical perspective, the atoms composing the steel of a bank vault, the hardest diamond, or the tissue of your own heart, are composed of 99.9999% empty space. What you perceive as hardness is simply the repulsion of electric fields. Nothing truly touches anything. When you hit a table, you feel the resistance of force fields. Hardness is an interpretation of the nervous system faced with frequency resistance. To live under the hypnosis of solid matter is to live in a prison whose walls only exist because you have accepted the limitation of touch over the vision of the spirit. The atomic veil remains because you give it the attribute of a consummated fact. By accepting that an obstacle is difficult or a situation is concrete, you are informing the resonant field that this structure has a superior authority to your will. You are sealing the veil. This chapter demands that you see the world as a liquid crystal, a substance that seems firm but becomes malleable under the divine gaze. Understand this principle. Physical reality does not happen out there. It happens in the back of your skull. color, sound, texture, and shape are electrical translations made by a biological machine hacked by centuries of mass conditioning. The world is a biological hologram, a projection of data that your consciousness interprets. The great lie of the Matrix is to make you believe that you are a passenger within this scenario, when in reality you are the projector holding the film. If matter were truly solid and independent of you, manifestation would be impossible. If the world were a block of set concrete, your will would have no crack through which to enter. But Forbidden Metaphysics reveals that matter has no intrinsic shape. It has a probability of shape. The atom is not a thing. It is a tendency to exist in a certain place under a certain observation. When you look at your bank account and see scarcity, you are collapsing the wave function into that specific form. You are using your power of observation to freeze the hologram in a configuration of limitation. You are using the divine fire to weld your own chains. The divine self does not observe to find out what is happening. The divine self observes to dictate what is happening. The architect's gaze pierces through to the vibratory code. By withdrawing the attribute of solidity from a problem, you withdraw its ability to resist. A mountain of debt is just an interference pattern in the atomic veil. A terminal illness is just a corrupt instruction in the software of matter. If you can see the liquidity behind the solid appearance, you have won the right to mold it. Realism is the religion of the slave and the consolation of the impotent. The slave says, "I have to be realistic, things are as they are." The sovereign responds, "Facts are only ashes of my past thoughts. I decree what things are now, and matter has no choice but to adjust. You must deprogram your visceral reaction." The biological machine has been designed to react to scarcity and danger with fear, generating a vibratory contraction that solidifies the problem. When you receive negative news and your body tenses, you are validating the veil. You are saying, "This is real and has power over me." This demands sovereign indifference. It is not about denying the appearance of the problem, but about denying its authority. You must look at the obstacle and, with the coldness of one watching a movie projection, say, "You are empty space. You are an obsolete sensory interpretation. I withdraw my recognition of reality." This dissolves the atomic glue. By denying it attention, which is the glue of the universe, the veil begins to tear. What once seemed an impassable structure begins to show cracks of possibility. The physical world is lazy and conservative. It tends to repeat yesterday's shape simply because no one has had the technical audacity to order its dissolution. In ordinary physics, the observer is an accident. In Forbidden Metaphysics, the observer is the legislator. Nothing exists in your personal universe without your vibratory consent. The atomic veil is a screen where your deepest assumptions are projected. If the veil shows you walls, your consciousness is in a frequency of enclosure. If the veil shows you doors, it is because you have remembered your expansive nature. The protocol of the atomic veil requires you to train your vision to see the invisible. When you walk down the street, do not see buildings and asphalt. See fields of energy vibrating in different octaves. See the infrastructure of thought. Understand that everything you see was once a whisper in someone's mind, an idea that densified until biological senses could detect it. If others could densify their ideas, you can dissolve theirs and precipitate yours. Authority does not reside in matter. It resides in the gaze that sustains it. To disintegrate the illusion of false reality, you must daily practice metaphysical vision. Look at a solid object, such as a stone or a wall. Instead of seeing its surface, visualize the swarm of atoms that compose it. Feel the immense space between those atoms. Visualize the object losing its color and its shape. Visualize it becoming a cloud of pure white light, in raw potential. Hold that vision until the sensation of hardness disappears from your mind. When you manage to do this with a small object, you can do it with complex situations. Look at your current problem and visualize it disintegrating into particles of light. Understand that this problem is only a temporary configuration of energy. A configuration that you can change simply by altering your angle of observation. The atomic veil is docile before those who know the veil does not exist. Matter is a slave that has been pretending to be the master because you forgot to give orders. Understanding the anatomy of the false reality is the indispensable prelude to the total command we will explore next. Once you have accepted that the world is a low-frequency reflection of your own conscious state, you cease to be a victim of circumstances. The outside ceases to be hostile. It becomes your personal workshop. You dismantled the idea of an external God in the first chapter. Now, in the second, you have dismantled the idea of an independent world. You are in a position of absolute power and, therefore, absolute responsibility. You can no longer blame reality for your failures. Reality is only the report of your own decrees. You are alone before the atomic veil, and you hold in your hands the scissors of pure consciousness to cut it, tear it, or weave it again according to your sovereign will. Matter has lost its right to say no. The veil has become transparent. The architect has woken up. Chapter 3. 0 Point. Immersion into the primordial void. You have murdered your external gods in the first protocol, reclaiming the energy you had yielded to them for eons. You have stripped matter of its false solidity in the second, understanding that the physical world is only a docile veil under the observer's gaze. You now find yourself in a dangerous and magnificent position. You are a sovereign without subjects and a creator without a world to limit you. However, before you can project a single sliver of new reality, before you can decree the first atom of your empire, you must undergo the protocol most feared by the biological machine and the ego, the voluntary annihilation of identity. Welcome to 0 Point. 0 Point is not an abstract philosophical concept or a poetic metaphor about peace of mind. It is a technical and mathematical coordinate in the map of pure consciousness. It is the space of absolute potential where the wave function has not yet collapsed, where the I has no name, no history, no debts, no desires, and no labels. It is the womb of ordered chaos from which all forms emerge and to which all forms must return to be reconfigured. To enter here, the toll is absolute. You must stop being someone to become nothing, because only from absolute nothingness does one have the legal and metaphysical right to be everything. This is the origin of your true power, the identity trap, the shackle of persistent memory. The greatest barrier to sovereign manifestation is not a lack of faith or willpower, but an excess of biographical baggage. Your name, your personal history, your childhood traumas, your past successes, your current debts, and your social labels form a frequency armor, a vibratory signature, that keeps you anchored to an obsolete reality. When you say, "I am your name," you are not simply identifying yourself. You are invoking a series of predictable limitations. You are informing the resonant field that you are a product of the past, a consequence of your ancestors, your education, your economy, and your mistakes. You are confirming your role as a limited actor. In Forbidden Metaphysics, we understand that human identity is a persistent memory that acts as a low-frequency filter. If you try to create abundance from the identity of someone who has always struggled for money, the field, which is a perfect mirror, will only deliver abundance for someone who struggles. The result is contaminated. The 0 Point protocol demands that you break the container violently and definitively. You must enter the void stripped of all intellectual property over yourself. At 0 Point, you are neither man nor woman, neither young nor old, neither rich nor poor. You are pure consciousness without attributes. You are the screen before the movie. To reach 0 Point, you must execute a conscious stripping technique we call initiatic death. This is not a relaxation meditation to reduce stress. It is a psychic dismantling operation. You must sit in the darkness of your own mind and begin to remove the layers of your false personality, like one removing heavy, dirty clothes. Biographical dismantling. Close your eyes and visualize your personal history as a series of ancient folios written in memory ink. Observe your academic titles, your failed loves, your material possessions, and your deepest fears. Now, visualize how a flame of electric white light emanating from your center consumes each folio. Feel the weight of who you think you are fall from your shoulders. If you feel vertigo or fear, it is the biological machine detecting its own irrelevance. Ignore it. The animal fears dying, but the God knows it is only waking up. You are detaching yourself from the gravity of your human narrative to float in pure potentiality. Renunciation of the name and barcode. Your name is the barcode the matrix uses to track your frequency and assign you a load of repetitive events. In the absolute silence of your mind, repeat with icy authority, I have no name, I have no origin, I have no destiny. Repeat it until the words lose their linguistic meaning. Only the sensation of a vast, dark, and borderless presence should remain. You are erasing your trace on the radar of ordinary reality. Immersion in the great primordial silence. Silence is not the absence of sound. It is the vibrant presence of everything not yet said. You are now in the ignition chamber of your own divinity. Why is absolute silence so vital for the divine architect? Because noise is the interference of the mass, the static of the collective mind. Most people try to manifest while their mind is a radio tuned to 1,000 different stations of fear, doubt, and social media. Creating a new reality in that state is impossible. 0 point is your absolute frequency shielding. When you inhabit the primordial void, you are in direct communication with the mother substance, liquid matter, before it takes shape. In this state of nothingness, your will finds no resistance because there is no small, limited self to oppose it. There are no doubts here. Only pure consciousness emitting a command frequency exists. Silence is the ignition chamber where the fuel of human desire is transmuted into the engine of divine decree. If you can hold a single vision at 0 point without the noise of your history interfering, that vision acquires an atomic density that matter must reflect. The human biological machine suffers from what the ancients called horror vacui, the terror of empty space. It fears the void because there the ego dissolves and loses its ability to control through drama. The ego needs problems, enemies, and a tragic story to feel real. 0 point is the clinical death of the ego. When you attempt this protocol, your mind will try to throw urgent thoughts, debt reminders, or trivial distractions at you. These are the defense mechanisms of the prison trying to prevent you from escaping through the door of nothingness. The sovereign treats these thoughts as simple low-frequency radio static. Do not fight them. Struggle is a form of attention, and attention gives reality. Simply watch them pass like distant clouds as you sink deeper into the luminous blackness of the void. Remember, you are not the thought. You are the infinite space where the thought occurs. You are the stage itself, not the actor. This is the supreme paradox of forbidden metaphysics. As long as you try to be someone special, you will be limited by the invisible walls of that specialty. If you try to be a great entrepreneur, you are subject to market laws. But if you dare to be nothing, you break all borders in a single stroke. From the state of absolute nothingness, you can choose any mask, any role, and any reality without being trapped by them. You can inhabit the role of the millionaire or the leader, knowing they are temporary garments over your divine nakedness. 0 point grants you the freedom of quantum multipotentiality. You are no longer subject to your genetic or social past, because in the void, the past simply does not exist. Every time you enter 0 point, you are born again with the software of reality completely clean, ready to be programmed with your new protocols of command and sovereign creation. To integrate this third chapter into your biological structure, you must perform the 0 point immersion daily. This is not a relaxation exercise, it is an appointment with your own omnipotence. Seek a space of total darkness and absolute silence. Sit with a straight back and begin the dismantling process. Dissolution phase. Minutes 1-5. Visualize the dissolution of your physical body atom by atom. Then visualize the dissolution of your name, your memories, and your worries. Feel yourself as a point of pure light floating in an infinite black space, a space that has no end and no beginning. You are pure potential. Absolute silence phase. Minutes 6-15. Inhabit the void. Do not look for visions, voices, or comfort. Simply be. If a thought appears, let it fall into the abyss. Stay in the state of, I am, but I am nothing in particular. Experience the freedom of having no history. This is the state of maximum metaphysical pressure. Projection phase, final minute. From that state of nothingness, emit a single command frequency, not as one asking for a wish, but as an assumption of a consummated fact. Feel how that frequency reverberates from the void and expands toward the ends of creation. You have returned from the nothingness as an architect of source. When you open your eyes, you will notice that you are no longer the same person who entered. You are now a conscious fragment of the source, an architect who has remembered how to use the universe's ignition chamber. The physical world will now seem like a game of shadows that you control from the center of 0 point. Chapter 4. The Throne of Consciousness. This is not a hidden physical place in some corner of your brain, nor a hierarchical position in an imaginary heaven created by the religions of slavery. It is the technical state of centralized authority. Most human beings live and die operating from the periphery of their own being. They are like dry leaves caught in a whirlwind. They react with fear, hope, or despair to every stimulus that the physical world throws at them. They live in reaction, which is the definitive confession that they are not in command. The protocol of this chapter demands that you definitively withdraw from that chaotic periphery and install yourself, with a will of iron, at the command post. This is where the fundamental difference is defined between the slave who tries to survive reality and the God who legislates over it. To occupy the throne, we must first dissect the mechanics of your identity and separate, with the precision of a laser scalpel, the ego that desires from the divine self that emanates. The fatal error of commercial metaphysics, of sweetened spirituality, and of the misunderstood law of attraction is attempting to manifest reality from the platform of the ego. You must understand this with crystal clarity. The ego is, by its own nature and design, an entity based on lack. It is an artificial construct of memory. It is a construct of biological and social memory that defines itself by what it lacks, by what it fears losing, and by the distance it perceives between itself and its goals. When the ego says, "I want money, I want health, or I want love," it is emitting a frequency of not having. The act of wanting is a vibratory confession. It is the confession of an absence. In the mathematical fabric of the universe, the resonant field does not listen to your words or your prayers. The field responds uniquely to the dominant frequency of your state of being. If your state of being is that of one who desires, the universe, which is a perfect mirror, will deliver more desire. It will keep you in the ante-room, in the eternal pursuit of a goal that always seems to be one step away, but is never delivered. The ego desires because it feels incomplete. Its requests, no matter how decorated they are with visualizations or affirmations, are actually disguised pleas. The ego is trapped in the timeline of pursuit. It operates under the illusion that power is out there and that it must be attracted, seduced, or snatched away through effort. Attempting to manifest from the ego is like trying to fill a broken pitcher with the water of an infinite ocean. No matter how much energy you invest, the substance of reality will always leak through the cracks. The cracks are your own internal sense of insufficiency. To occupy the throne, the ego must be evicted. You cannot sit in the seat of God while you continue wearing the rags of the beggar who believes he needs to ask permission to exist in abundance. At the exact center of the throne of consciousness dwells the I Am without attributes. This is your original identity, the pure essence that you recovered when you stripped away your name and your history at the 0 point. The divine self does not desire anything, because the divine self dwells in a state of simultaneous totality. It knows, with a certainty that requires no proof, that it contains all probabilities. It contains all probabilities in its own field of immediate influence. The technical difference between the human and the architect is the following. Desire is a distressing vector force that is born from the small self and is directed toward an external object perceived as absent. It generates friction and activates balancing forces. These balancing forces end up blocking the manifestation to maintain the stability of the system. Emanation is an expansive wave, calm and sovereign, that is born from the center of the throne and saturates the field of reality with the absolute certainty that the desired form already exists in consciousness. There is no search. There is no search because there is no distance. There is only an unfolding of the will upon the veil of matter. Establishing yourself on the throne means ceasing to be a passive receiver of reality to become the central emitter. When you emanate from the I Am without attributes, you stop asking the world to give you something. You begin to inform the world of what you have already decided is. On the throne, the decree I am abundance is not a future goal, nor a hope, nor a comfort. It is a technical description of your present frequency. And matter, which is docile and has no will of its own, must begin to crystallize that frequency immediately. It must do so by the simple law of vibratory correspondence. Occupying the throne requires an act of conscious will that we call the anchoring of the original identity. You must learn to inhabit permanently the space that is located just behind your thoughts, your emotions, and your physical sensations. Most people identify with the mental traffic. You must identify with the road. The tactical withdrawal of the senses. The first step for installation is withdrawing attention from the periphery. Close your physical eyes and visualize your consciousness retreating from the surface of your skin, from your ears, and from your eyes. Move toward a point of white light, icy and immobile, in the exact center of your skull, in the sanctuary of the pineal gland. Feel how the external world, with all its demands and noises, suddenly becomes a distant movie, a flat projection on a screen that no longer has power over you. You are entering the bunker of consciousness. The purification of attributes. Once on the throne, you must strip away the final labels. Do not say, "I am intelligent," "I am strong," or "I am successful." No matter how positive they seem, those are attributes that limit the vastness of the original I am. On the throne, you only are I am. It is the state of pure being. It is the master software before any specific program is loaded onto it. This vibratory nakedness is, paradoxically, what grants you the legal right to choose any program afterward. Only one who is nothing has the power to project everything. The stabilization of the immobile observer. The throne is the place of absolute stillness. While the world of form is agitated, while the news changes and the emotions of your biological machine rise and fall like tides, you remain immobile in the center. The architect is not unmoved by the movement of shadows on the screen of the atomic veil. He knows that he is the source of the light that projects the image. From this immobility, your will acquires a gravitational authority. A decree emitted from agitation is a whisper. A decree emitted from the immobility of the throne is a physical law. When you occupy the throne, your words cease to be air and become precipitation codes. The ego talks a lot because it is afraid of not being heard. The divine self on the throne keeps silent because it knows that its mere presence is a constant decree. In this first phase of the installation, your only job is to hold the seat. Do not try to change anything on the outside yet. If you rush to try to manifest before you have stabilized your stay on the throne, you will fall. You will fall back into the frequency of desire, and the ego will regain command. The sovereign first crowns himself and then legislates. This part of the protocol consists of your internal coronation. Feel the pressure of the void around you and the solidity of your own consciousness in the center. You are the immobile point. You are the immobile point in a universe that turns. You are the sole cause that does not need effects to validate itself. You are learning to inhabit divine indifference, that state of absolute peace where the result no longer distresses you, because you know that the moment you sat on the throne, the result was already sealed. Now that the king has returned from exile and has occupied the throne of consciousness, it is time to open the lips of the spirit. But beware. In Forbidden Metaphysics, words are not tools of communication. They are tools of atomic precipitation. Seated on the throne, your lips no longer emit desires. They emit edicts of emanation. The difference is the same as that which exists between a beggar asking for a coin and a monarch signing a law. The beggar hopes that luck or charity will favor him. The monarch knows that once the signature is placed, the machinery of the state starts up automatically. In your universe, that machinery is the resonant field. Your signature is the frequency of absolute assumption. Most human beings make the technical error of asking the universe. By asking, they get up from the throne and return to the frequency of the slave. The divine self on the throne does not ask because it knows that there is no one outside to ask. Everything that appears on the stage of your life is a projection of what you hold in the center. Therefore, the edict of emanation is an instruction directed to the very substance of your consciousness. When you emit an edict, you are not trying to attract something that is far away. You are informing the liquid matter. You are informing it that it has already taken a new form in the plane of causality. An edict of emanation has three technical characteristics: absence of future. The throne dwells in the eternal now. If your decree contains a will be, will have, or will achieve, you have returned to the timeline of the ego. The edict is always emitted in absolute present. I am. It is the seal of consummation. Cold authority. The ego puts a lot of emotion into its desires because it is afraid they won't be fulfilled. The divine self emits its edicts with a sovereign coldness. You don't need to yell at gravity for it to work, you simply walk. In the same way, you emit your decree with the naturalness of one who establishes an obvious truth. The post-decree silence. Once the edict is emitted, the sovereign keeps silent. He does not look for signs. He does not ask, when will it happen? He does not try to help the manifestation with desperate human effort. If you look for signs, you are confessing that you do not believe in your own authority. Silence is the proof that the king knows that his word is law. Here we reach one of the most proscribed and effective protocols: divine indifference. In ordinary metaphysics, you are told that you must want something very much. Forbidden Metaphysics tells you the opposite. Excess importance is the killer of manifestation. When you give too much importance to a result, you generate what we call excess potential. In the fabric of the universe, this creates a distortion, a hump of energy that activates the balancing forces of the system. The universe, to maintain stability, will try to dissolve that importance, generally by distancing you from the object of your desire. Importance is the language of lack. It is the proof that you feel that something is bigger than you. From the throne, you practice divine indifference. You emanate the frequency. You emanate the frequency of abundance, health, or success, and then you withdraw your attention with the same ease with which you close a book. It is not disinterest, it is absolute certainty. The divine self knows that the supply is infinite, and that matter is its docile slave. By treating your desires with normality, by treating them with the normality of one who breathes, you eliminate all resistance. The path between the throne and the physical precipitation becomes a highway without tolls or obstacles. Sitting on the throne is the first step. Remaining on it is the mastery. The physical world will try to get you to stand up. The atomic veil will throw news, debts, physical symptoms, or the doubts of others at you. These events are the exams of sovereignty. They are projections of your old doubts, coming to see if you really are the king or if you are only playing at being one. The protocol demands that your response be total indifference. Do not fight against the appearance of the problem. Do not try to fix the external world from the outside. Return to the throne. Close your eyes. Inhabit the white light in the center of your skull and reaffirm, "This that my eyes see is only the residue of yesterday. What I am in this instant is the only truth." Remaining on the throne means that your loyalty to your internal vision is greater than your loyalty to the screen of your senses. When the atomic veil notices that it can no longer scare you or pull you from your center, it surrenders. Matter begins to fold, to melt, and to reorganize to match the frequency of the sovereign. Matter reorganizes for the sovereign who did not blink. The installation of the reality software. In this phase of Chapter 4, the throne ceases to be a place of rest to become a programming station. From here, you begin to install what we call the sovereign reality software. You no longer accept the laws of statistics. You no longer accept the laws of economy or conventional medicine as mandatory laws for you. You accept them as laws for the mass, but not for the architect. From the throne, you decree your own physical laws. In my presence, supply is instantaneous. In my body, harmony is the organic law. In my world, time collapses in favor of my will. You are not asking for these laws to work. You are informing the field that these are the new conditions of your existence. The I am without attributes is the blank space where these laws are written. Since it has no previous attributes, the I am can hold any reality. It can hold any reality that you decide to print on it. You have recovered the throne. You have learned to separate the distressing desire of the ego from the sovereign emanation of the divine self. You have understood that importance is a trap and that indifference is a tool of power. Now the king is seated. He is seated in silence, looking toward the horizon of his creation. You are no longer a victim of fate. You are no longer a seeker of hidden treasures. You are the source from which the treasure emanates. The throne is your permanent base of operations. From now on, every thought must carry the seal of authority. Chapter 5: Engineering of Liquid Reality. This is the protocol where the architect stops observing reality to begin putting their hands into its invisible gears. Most human beings make the fatal error of fighting against matter. They try to change money with more physical work. They try to change health with more chemicals. And they try to change events with external manipulation. That is like trying to change the image of a movie by pushing the cinema screen with your hands. In Forbidden Metaphysics, we understand that matter is not a granite wall. It is a fluid of low-frequency information. What you call solid reality is simply energy that has moved so slowly that it is crystallized. Your job is not to break the glass, but to apply the temperature of your consciousness to make it liquid again. To be an engineer of reality, you must accept a proscribed axiom. Nothing in this universe has a fixed form. Everything you see, your body, bundles of bills, the walls of your house, is composed of the same mother substance. It is a matrix of intelligent energy that is infinitely malleable. This substance has no will of its own. It is purely reactive. Its only function is to obey the observer, who has enough authority to give it an order. The problem is that you have been hypnotized to believe in the irreversibility of facts. You have been told that if the doctor says sick, matter is sick. That if the bank says zero, matter is scarcity. That is slave realism. The engineer of liquid matter sees those states not as truths, but as temporary data configurations. Money is not paper or digital numbers. It is a data stream of abundance. Health is not the functioning of organs. It is a frequency of molecular harmony. If the information changes at the source, your consciousness on the throne, matter has no choice but to melt and reorganize to reflect the new code. The first technical protocol for softening reality is the architect's gaze. The ordinary gaze collides with objects. It sees the surface and accepts the label the world has put on it. The architect's gaze, however, is a look of metaphysical X-rays. When you look at a difficult situation, you do not see the problem. You see the atoms that compose it dancing in the void. When you stare at an obstacle, whether a debt or a physical symptom, with the awareness that it is 99% empty space, a quantum phenomenon of destabilization occurs. By withdrawing the attribute of solidity through your conscious observation, matter begins to lose its coherence. It becomes soft. You begin to feel that this reality is no longer so heavy, that it no longer has that authority over you. You are applying the friction of consciousness upon the atoms of limitation. You are informing the object of your observation that you have discovered its secret, that it is not real, that it is only a veil. In that instant, matter becomes liquid, ready to be reprogrammed. In the engineering of liquid matter, we stop using nouns and start using verbs. Nothing is, everything is being emitted. Money as an information flow. Stop seeing money as something you must get and start seeing it as a data flow that you emit. Poverty is simply an information blockage, a knot in the hose of abundance caused by thoughts of importance and fear. For the engineer, money is like air. It is everywhere in a liquid state, potential. Your job is not to search for air, but to expand your conscious lungs so that air precipitates as usable oxygen. Health as programmable harmony. Your body is the liquid matter closest to your command center. It is the hardware that responds fastest to your protocols. Illness is just a noisy instruction that has been installed in the cells. The engineer does not fight the symptom. They enter the source code from the throne. They overwrite the instruction. I am perfect health operating in this hardware. You do not ask for it, you program it. By visualizing your cells not as flesh, but as points of docile light, you soften the illness until it disappears into the void from which it came. Events as a geometry of probabilities. Events are not accidents. They are wave function collapses. Each event is a piece of liquid matter that has taken shape according to your dominant expectation. If you want to change a future event, you must soften the present timeline. You must see the future not as something that is going to happen, but as clay already in your hands. The most potent tool of the engineer is technical indifference. Matter hardens when you give it importance. If you despair over money, money becomes hard, difficult to move, solid as a rock that crushes you. If you obsess over illness, you give it an atomic solidity that makes it resistant to any treatment. The softening protocol demands that you look at your most serious problems with an icy smile. By saying, "You are not important, you are only docile information," you break the surface tension that holds the problem together. Matter can only maintain its form of limitation if you lend it your faith. The moment you withdraw the recognition of its hardness, the problem begins to liquefy. It becomes manageable. It becomes a possibility of change. You are releasing the atoms from their prison of fear so they can dance to the rhythm of your new sovereign song. Now that the matter is hot, use the mold. Now that the glass of your reality has become malleable under divine indifference, it is the moment of precipitation. In the engineering of liquid matter, we do not wait for things to happen. We set them. If consciousness is the fire that melts the old form, the sovereign decree is the mold for the new reality. But beware. This mold is not built with empty words, but with the frequency of consummation. The beginner's error is trying to mold liquid matter while still doubting its fluidity. If you try to manifest money but deep down still feel that money is hard to get, your mold is broken. Matter will simply leak through the cracks of your uncertainty. The die of the decree requires a hermetic mental structure. When you emit a decree from the throne of consciousness, you are applying an invisible pressure on the atoms you just softened. You are saying, "Substance, stop being chaos and become this structure." For the die to work, you must see the final form with such sharpness that matter has no other option but to fill the gaps of your vision. You are not imagining something that could be. You are installing the blueprint of what already is in the causal plane. Liquid matter is lazy. It always seeks the easiest form. If you give it a clear mold of abundance or health, it will precipitate there by pure frequency magnetism. Hablemos de la aplicación técnica, programming opulence. Money in a liquid state is simply energetic availability. When your bank account shows a number you dislike, the engineer does not see poverty. They see an empty space waiting to be programmed. From your throne, visualize that figure not as something static, but as a data stream in motion. Apply the die. I am the source that saturates this void with infinite supply. Feel the density of that statement. By treating money as information, you eliminate friction. Money will start to appear not because you look for it, but because your liquid reality can no longer sustain the form of scarcity. Reconfiguration of the biological template. Your body is the liquid matter most sensitive to your command. Each cell is a data processor that listens to your internal conversation. If you speak to your body about "my pain," you are giving it a mold of deformity. To reconfigure it, enter 0 point, soften the symptom by withdrawing importance, and then apply the die of original perfection. Visualize your DNA not as a biological chain, but as a code of golden light. Dictate the new law. This hardware operates under the frequency of absolute harmony. Do not wait for the body to heal to feel healthy. Install health in the liquid matter and the physical body will follow the trail like a shadow follows the body. Sometimes, liquid matter presents what we call form inertia. It is that tendency of reality to return to its previous state of limitation by pure habit. Here is where the engineer uses the laser gaze. It is sustained and unblinking attention on the new form, completely ignoring any residue of the old form that still floats in the atomic veil. If you decreed abundance but today you received an unexpected bill, that bill is a remnant of old matter trying to harden again. If you get scared, you give it your heat and solidify it again. If you look at it with indifference, recognizing it as a ghost of yesterday, you let it die. The laser gaze consists of keeping the die placed on the matter, no matter how many times the physical world tries to tell you that nothing has changed. Liquid matter always yields to the persistence of the architect. It cannot help it. It is its atomic nature to obey the will that does not divide. The final objective of the engineering of liquid matter is to reduce the time between the decree and the physical form. This time exists only because of doubt. At the moment your certainty is 100%, matter collapses instantly. To achieve this, you must practice the assumption of consummated fact. Start by programming trivial events: traffic, a phone call, the weather. Soften the situation, apply the die, and observe how matter adjusts. By seeing results in the small, your confidence in command becomes unbreakable. Your precipitation muscle strengthens. You will see no distinction between thought and reality. You have stopped being a spectator, amazed by the miracles of others, to become the technician who produces them. Matter is no longer your jailer, it is your clay. Money, health, and events are data flows that you direct from the throne of consciousness. You have gained the freedom to rewrite your biography. Do not say again, "It is difficult," because difficult is only matter that you have not yet had the audacity to soften. Do not say again, "I can't," because can't is a form you yourself are die-casting. You are the engineer. The world is your liquid crystal workshop. Use it with scientific coldness and creator's passion. Closing operative protocol. During the next 7 days, act as if you were walking in a world made of water. Every time you touch an object or think of a situation, feel its fluidity. Apply the die of your will upon 3 specific situations and do not accept a no for an answer from matter. Keep the pressure. Chapter 6. The Word of Power, the Seal of the Decree. Welcome to the technology of the Word of Power. Most human beings spend their lives speaking, emitting sounds that have neither direction nor weight. Their words are like smoke. They dissipate into the air without altering a single atom of reality. Worse still, many try to use popular metaphysics by repeating empty affirmations. They repeat them thousands of times, hoping that mechanical repetition will convince a deaf universe. In Forbidden Metaphysics, we understand that the universe is not deaf, but is a high-frequency security system that ignores any noise that does not have the correct access code. That code is not a phrase, it is the tuning of triangulation. The failure of common affirmations, the ego's lie. Why do conventional affirmations fail in 99% of cases? Because they are emitted from the platform of lack. When someone repeats, "I am rich," while their solar plexus is screaming, "I am afraid of not being able to pay the rent," the resonant field does not register the pretty words, it registers the cognitive dissonance. The field is a quantum lie detector. Common affirmations fail for 3 technical reasons. The duality of intention. You are trying to convince yourself of something you believe you do not have. By trying to convince yourself, you are confirming that the fact is not real in your present. The resistance of the biological machine. Your logical brain acts as a guardian of the atomic veil. If you say something that contradicts sensory evidence without having softened the matter first, the brain rejects the instruction as false, thus reinforcing the reality of the problem. Lack of frequential voltage. A word without feeling and without the authority of the throne is a projectile without gunpowder. It lacks the necessary inertia to penetrate the density of physical matter. The divine self does not make affirmations. The divine self emits edicts. An affirmation seeks permission. An edict establishes the law. For your voice to become the seal of the decree, you must first master the triangulation of reality. The triangulation of power, thought, feeling, and word. In reality engineering, the word of power is the final vertex of a triangle of force. If one of the sides is weak, the structure collapses and the decree dissolves into the void. The thought, the blueprint. It is the technical form of the decree. It must be precise without ambiguities. Thought defines the limits of liquid matter. If you want abundance, the thought must not be a lot of money, but the clear image of the figure or the state of infinite supply. It is the architect's blueprint. The feeling, the fuel. We are not talking about volatile human emotions like euphoria or desperate desire. Sovereign feeling is sensory certainty. It is the taste of the thing already possessed. It is the pressure in the chest that says, "It is already done." Feeling is the voltage that pushes thought. Without feeling, thought is an empty shell. The word, the seal. It is the act of collapsing the wave function. When thought and feeling are in tune, the word acts as the hammer that strikes the die. The word nails the frequency into the fabric of liquid matter, forcing it to crystallize. When these 3 elements align, you emit what we call an unwavering order. In that state, There is no doubt in the thought, no fear in the feeling, and no trembling in the voice. The resonant field receives a coherent instruction, and by the law of hyperdimensional physics, must execute it. The universe has no free will. You do. Matter is a slave that only waits for an order that is solid enough to be obeyed. The word is a fine-tuning weapon. You must understand that sound is densified vibration. When you speak from the throne of consciousness, you are not moving just air. You are moving the ether. Your vocal cords are precision instruments that must be tuned with the frequency of the I Am without attributes. The word of power does not require volume, it requires density. A whisper emitted from absolute certainty has more precipitation power than a shout emitted from doubt. The protocol of the word of power demands that you stop talking for the sake of talking. Every word that comes out of your mouth is a micro-decree. If you decree abundance in your meditation, but spend the rest of the day talking about how high prices are, you are sabotaging your own die. You are softening matter in the morning and hardening it into the form of scarcity in the afternoon. The architect guards his word as a king guards his royal seal. Do not emit words that you do not want to see turned into stone. Your voice is the brush with which you paint the atomic veil. Learn to speak only when thought and feeling are aligned. Silence is preferable to the emission of interference. In silence, power accumulates. In the word of power, power discharges. Issuing the edict, the sacred code, you have aligned the triangle. Your thought has the sharpness of crystal, and your feeling possesses the density of certainty. Now, seated on the throne of consciousness, you must learn to emit the seal of the decree. In Forbidden Metaphysics, speech is an act of atomic legislation. When the architect opens his mouth, he is not giving an opinion on reality. He is emitting the physical laws that will govern his personal universe. To make your word nail reality, you must abandon the syntax of the beggar. Ordinary human language is designed for description, not creation. It is used to say how things are or how they were, but the word of the divine self is used to dictate how they shall be now. This chapter focuses on the use of the sacred name and the technique of frequential impact. The I Am code is the access key to the root of the resonant field. It is the declaration that the source is operating at the exact point where you are. When you pronounce I Am with the authority of the throne, you are claiming total ownership over what follows those two words. If you say I am poor, you have sealed scarcity with the king's seal. The resonant field does not judge the quality of your decree. It simply obeys the bearer of the name. The protocol demands that you never again join the I Am to a limitation. Use them only to seal perfection. Saying I am abundance flowing now is informing liquid matter of its new identity. The technique of frequential impact, the dry decree. The error of popular metaphysics is the excess of words. Long, flowery decrees full of explanations are a sign of doubt. The ego speaks a lot because it believes it has to convince the universe or itself. The divine self uses the dry decree. A dry decree is short, sharp, and final. It contains no pleas, no justifications, and above all, no future tense. Frequential impact occurs when you launch the word with a firm exhalation, feeling how the vibration is born from the solar plexus and projected through the throat toward the atomic veil. Incorrect. I wish my health would improve soon because I feel bad. This is slave noise. Correct. I am perfect health. It is already done. This is the king's seal. Absolute silence must follow the decree. That silence is the space where the sound wave hits matter and crystallization begins. If you keep talking, you dissolve the pressure. Silence is what allows the seal to dry and set. Learn to emit your order and retreat to the void, synchronizing the word with biological rhythm. To maximize the voltage of your word of power, use the respiratory rhythm. Breath is the vehicle of spirit in matter. 1. Inhale the potential of the void. 0 point. 2. Hold the breath while visualizing the die. Chapter 5. 3. Exhale the decree with controlled force, projecting the sound like a laser. Feel your cells vibrate in sympathy with the sound. If your body does not vibrate when you speak, your decree is only air. You must become the musical instrument of your own will. The word of power must resonate in your bones before it resonates in the world. When you achieve this synchrony, the resonant field detects a signal of such coherence that the resistance of matter collapses. Obstacles that seemed solid yesterday dissolve today before the frequency of your voice. The danger of idle words, field contamination. As an architect, you must understand that you cannot be a god in your meditation chamber and a complaining human at the coffee table. The resonant field does not turn off. It is listening to every idle word, every criticism, every complaint about the economy or the weather. If you spend 10 minutes decreeing wealth and 10 hours talking about how hard everything is, the universe averages your frequency and delivers the result, a life of struggle with brief moments of relief. Forbidden Metaphysics demands an absolute verbal diet. Stop using language to describe what you do not want. If you do not want something to exist in your world, do not give it the honor of being named by your mouth. Silence is the death of the unwanted. The word is the life of the chosen. Your voice is now the seal of the decree. Use it with the parsimony of a judge and the precision of a surgeon. Before you open your mouth, ask yourself, do I want to see this turned into stone in my reality? If the answer is no, keep silent. The silence of the sovereign is more powerful than the shout of the slave. Chapter 7. The Art of Operative Invisibility. Many initiates, after emitting a potent decree, make the mistake of standing over the seed, desperately waiting for it to sprout. In doing so, they project a frequency of anxiety that acts as a concrete wall against the manifestation. Welcome to the Art of Operative Invisibility. In Forbidden Metaphysics, we understand that the fastest creation is that which occurs behind the ego's back. The ego is noisy, heavy, and generates friction. The divine self, instead, operates with a tactical detachment. Creating with invisibility means launching the intention into the primordial void and then disappearing from the map. If there is no I waiting for results, there is no resistance to stop the precipitation. To master invisibility, you must understand why insistence blocks the flow. In quantum physics, the observer effect dictates that the act of looking alters the result. In command metaphysics, looking with need freezes the result in its unmanifested state. When you emit a decree and then spend the day asking, "Where is my money?" or "Why haven't I healed yet?" you are sending a contradictory signal of the highest power. You are informing the resonant field that your previous decree was a lie. You are watching reality to see if it has changed, which is the proof that you don't believe it has. This vigilance generates surface tension in the liquid matter that hardens it instantly, stopping any reconfiguration process. Operative invisibility consists of emitting the order and then withdrawing the radar. It is the art of becoming energetically non-existent to the object of your creation. If you are not there to doubt, to measure, or to despair, the intention slides through the ether without meeting opposition. It is the difference between pushing a closed door and being the key that opens it without making a sound. The term detachment has been misunderstood by many as a renunciation of desire. In Forbidden Metaphysics, tactical detachment is not giving up what you want. It is giving up the surveillance of the process. It is the absolute confidence of the monarch who, after signing an edict, goes to sleep knowing that his generals will execute the order without the need for him to supervise every single step. Tactical detachment is based on the indifference of the final result. It sounds paradoxical. You want something so much that you are willing not to care when or how it arrives. By removing vital importance, you eliminate excess potential. Importance is the glue of limitation. When something is too important, your vibration contracts. By becoming invisible through detachment, your frequency becomes subtle and penetrating. You pass through the layers of physical reality like a ghost passes through a wall. To operate from invisibility, you must use the protocol of the launch into the void. This is the technical procedure for depositing your intention into the 0 point. The charge of intention. In your throne of consciousness, build the form of your decree with maximum density. Thought plus feeling plus word. Feel it as a solid, glowing object in your chest. The shot. With a short, dry exhalation, visualize that sphere of intention shooting into the black abyss of the primordial void. The closing of the portal. Immediately after the shot, shift your attention to something trivial, mundane, or physical. Drink water, walk, or solve a simple math problem. Cut the thread of connection. This third step is the most difficult and the most vital. By cutting the thread, you are preventing your conscious mind from chasing it. By throwing the seed and turning away, you allow the void to work in absolute silence. Physical precipitation occurs in the dark, away from the blinding light of your anxiety. Invisibility is your greatest protection against your own self-sabotage. Operating with invisibility also means not talking about your works with third parties. External silence protects the internal pressure of the manifestation. When you tell your plans to people vibrating in the frequency of the masses, their doubts act as parasites on your intention. Their skeptical looks are external observers that solidify the old reality you are trying to dissolve. The forbidden architect is a silent operator. He needs no validation. He needs no one to believe in his power. He moves through the world as an ordinary citizen while, in his command center, he is rewriting the laws of his economy and biology. Invisibility allows you to work without the interference of collective egregores. Create in the shadows so that results shine in the light. Operative invisibility requires you to become a ghost in the matrix. You must walk through the physical world as if you no longer belong to its laws of cause and effect. If the atomic veil shows you a lack, you must pass through it with the indifference of a sovereign. In the engineering of consciousness, there is a proscribed law. Matter organizes itself best when it does not feel observed by doubt. When you withdraw your attention from the weight, you release an immense amount of energy that the resonant field uses to collapse probabilities. You give the instruction and then you disappear. Imagine you have commissioned a work of art from a master craftsman. If you stand behind him, questioning every move of his chisel and asking every 5 minutes, "Is it ready yet?" the craftsman will become tense and the process will become tortuous. But if you give the instruction and withdraw, the master works with mastery. The master craftsman is the intelligence of the mother substance. Your only function is to give the blueprint and then vanish. Operative invisibility is the act of not being home for doubt. When the logical mind asks, "How will it arrive?" your internal response must be an absolute void. Do not answer. Do not seek logic. Any how invented by your human mind will be infinitely smaller than the hows the resonant field can orchestrate. When you launch an intention into the void with total invisibility, the universe begins to build what we call the bridge of incidents. This is a series of events that are the root of least resistance. The problem is that, halfway across the bridge, the ego often gets scared. You might lose a job to gain a fortune. If you are visible and attached, you will try to stop the process because change scares you. The invisible architect, however, trusts the trajectory. He knows the bridge is already laid. To maintain invisibility during the transit of the bridge, apply sovereign acceptance. Do not judge intermediate events. What seems like a problem may be the engine of the solution. Maintain operative silence. Act by intuition, not by anxiety. Moving because you fear it won't happen is visibility. You must understand that the physical world has inertia. The objects you see now are the echo of your thoughts from weeks ago. When you change your frequency on the throne of consciousness, the echo does not disappear instantly. Operative invisibility consists of ignoring the echo and not giving it power. If you continue reacting emotionally to the echo, you are winding the clock of the past. You are becoming visible to the reality you want to leave behind. Being invisible means the echo can no longer touch you. You hear it, you see it, but you no longer give it the power to define who you are. The world is just catching up. The art of invisibility also protects you from egregores. The matrix system constantly seeks beings emitting frequencies of fear or need to feed on them. If you are invisible, if you do not emit importance, if you do not complain, the system has nowhere to hook. You pass under the radar of collective limitation. While the world talks about crisis, you are invisible to the crisis. This transparency is achieved through tactical detachment. By not giving reality to the shadows of the mass, the shadows cannot be projected on your screen. You are a sovereign operator who creates whole worlds in absolute secrecy. Many initiates confuse invisibility with passivity, but operative invisibility is an activity of high intensity in the invisible plane. While your physical body walks and eats, your consciousness remains as a sentinel on the throne, preventing any thought of seeking from contaminating the precipitation. For invisibility to be total, there must occur what we call the death of the interested party. The interested party is that part of your personality that feels its survival depends on the fulfillment of the decree. It is the one that counts the days, the one that checks the phone waiting for the news. The protocol demands that you murder that character. You must reach a point of conviction such that physical manifestation is irrelevant to your internal peace. It sounds contradictory, but only what you no longer desperately need has permission to appear. By dying as an interested party, you become transparent. The ego measures success by speed. If the decree is not fulfilled in 24 hours, the ego appears and says, "This doesn't work." In that moment, you have become visible. The invisible architect operates in the no-wait. Waiting implies distance. The no-wait is the total inhabitancy of the result. If you are already rich in your consciousness, you are not waiting for money. You are simply living your life while the money organizes itself. Invisibility to time means you don't give the clock the power to invalidate your decree. Precipitation accelerates proportionally to your ability to not notice the time. Here is where popular metaphysics fails with acting as if. Acting is an effort. Acting requires a mask. Acting is, again, making yourself visible. The divine self does not act. The divine self is. Operative invisibility prefers being who is. You inhabit the frequency in your internal silence. That vibration is invisible to the human eye, but it is a deafening shout to the atoms of liquid matter. By not trying to prove anything to anyone, the resistance disappears. The old reality dissolves because it no longer finds anyone to hold it up with their worry. To close this protocol, you must understand the importance of the silence of the gods. There is a massive power leak when we try to explain our metaphysical processes to others. The desire to be understood is a weakness of the ego. Every time you say, "I am applying a protocol," you have become visible. The work must be secret until it is evident. When precipitation occurs and the world asks, "How did you do it?" your answer must be an indifferent smile. Never reveal the mechanism. By keeping the secret of your power, you maintain the purity of the channel. The architect is never seen. Protocol for completion. For the next 7 days, assume the identity of the sovereign ghost. Walk among your current problems as if they were holograms of a movie that already ended. Do not talk about your decrees. Do not look for results. If asked, respond with absolute vagueness. You are ready. Chapter 8: The Transmutation of Time and Space. In Forbidden Metaphysics, time is not a physical constant. It is a delay protocol. It was designed so that human consciousness would not manifest its fears instantaneously and destroy itself. However, for the divine self that has regained command, time is simply a variable of density. You do not have to wait for the future. The future is only a frequency that you have not learned to tune into in the present. The architect's secret is not waiting for time to pass, but collapsing the distance between the "I am" and the "it is done." Most human beings live under the dictatorship of Chronos. They believe life is a straight line from past to future. They believe that to obtain a result, they must cross a series of mandatory intermediate steps. This belief is the anchor that keeps manifestation in a state of lethargy. If you believe that to be rich you need 5 years of hard work, you have emitted a time decree that the resonant field will fulfill with absolute fidelity. The deception of linearity. The slave's clock. You have programmed your own delay. The divine self operates in the eternal now. At 0 point, time does not exist. Only presence exists. Time is an interpretation of the biological machine trying to process data sequentially. But the architect knows that all versions of their reality exist simultaneously as probability fields. The version that is poor and the version that is opulent, the sick and the healthy, exist in this very instant. The distance between you and your desire is not measured in meters or days. It is a distance of vibration. In ordinary physics, to go from point A to point B, you must travel the intermediate space. In Forbidden Metaphysics, space is an illusion generated by low frequency. The distance collapse protocol demands that you stop trying to reach your goal and begin bringing the goal toward you. Imagine your reality is an immense carpet. Your current situation is at one end and your desire is at the other. The slave walks upon the carpet step by step, exhausting themselves in the journey. The architect, seated on their throne, simply folds the carpet. They bring the 2 points together in their consciousness until they touch. In that moment, the distance disappears. How is the carpet of reality folded? Folding the carpet, the assumption of omnipresence. It is done through the assumption of omnipresence. You must stop seeing your desire as something that will come, and start feeling it as something already occupying the same space as you. You are not waiting for money. You are inhabiting the frequency of wealth right there where you are sitting. You do so even if your physical eyes see an empty room. By collapsing emotional and mental distance, you force physical space to contract. Synchronicities accelerate, the necessary people appear out of nowhere, and what should take years occurs in weeks. You have hacked the delay protocol. Just as you can collapse time to manifest, you can also dilate it to operate. The biological machine is programmed to age and stress under the pressure of social time. The reality engineer learns to step out of the time of the masses, clock time, to enter the time of being. At 0 point, time contains an eternity. When you are at 0 point, 1 minute of the clock can contain an eternity of information and rest. This is the secret of cellular regeneration and longevity. By withdrawing attention from the passage of time and fixing it on the immobility of the I am, you inform yourselves that time has no jurisdiction. The memory of the future, hijacking the timeline. You can perform complex tasks in what seem like seconds, or allow your body to rest deeply in minimal intervals. You are ceasing to be a victim of Chronos to become the Lord of Kairos, the opportune time, the time without measure. To bring the future to the present, the divine self uses the memory of the future technique. Normally, we remember the past. Remembering the past is re-solidifying the old reality. The architect instead decides to remember what has not yet physically happened with the same sharpness as remembering what they ate for breakfast today. If you can remember your success with such sensory detail, you win. If your body cannot distinguish between the memory and the present, you have erased the timeline. The resonant field receives the signal that the event has already occurred. Finding no vibratory contradiction, the universe simply precipitates physical events to match the memory you implanted in the now. You are not imagining the future. You are claiming a memory of a timeline you have already occupied on your throne of consciousness. You have understood that time is not a road you must travel, but a veil of density that separates your current state of consciousness from the physical form of your desire. You have learned that linearity is the slave's clock, and that the architect dwells in the eternal now. But now we must face the operative challenge: how to manage the inertia of matter when the physical body still feels the ticking clock. How do we force the universe to skip intermediate steps? Welcome to the engineering of temporal collapse. In Forbidden Metaphysics, time is considered a plastic resource. It is not something that passes, it is something you emit. If your emission is diffuse and full of doubts, time stretches, becomes dense, and results seem to move perpetually away. If your emission is coherent, sharp, and centered on the throne, time contracts. The space between the idea and the thing is reduced until both points touch in a spark of instantaneous precipitation. In the previous chapter, we spoke of the bridge of incidents, the events needed for your decree. The ordinary human walks that bridge slowly, stopping at every obstacle. The architect, however, uses the technique of bridge collapse. Collapsing the bridge means you do not allow the how to take control of the clock. Most people delay their own manifestation because they try to predict or help the process. Collapsing the bridge, ignoring the how, they say, to earn $1 million, first I must start a company, then find clients, then sell. By defining these steps, you are creating mandatory time stations. You are building your own chronological prison. The divine self ignores the intermediate steps. It does not look at the bridge, it looks at the finished end. By fixing your attention exclusively on the final result, with the intensity of a laser, you inform the resonant field that the intermediate steps are irrelevant to you. The field, always seeking the path of least resistance, will begin to erase or accelerate the events. Things resolve in hours. What previously required months of paperwork or effort can be resolved with a phone call or a fortuitous encounter in a matter of hours. You have collapsed the bridge because you refuse to walk it mentally. Time only exists where there is a difference in potential between what is and what is desired. If you feel poor and desire to be rich, the distance between those states translates into waiting time. The greater the emotional gap, the longer the road. The secret for the transmutation of time is total synchronization. You must eliminate the gap right now. Do not wait for money to arrive to feel prosperous. Total synchronization, eliminating the vibratory gap. You must feel the vibration of prosperity with such sharpness that the universe finds no difference between your internal state and the reality you seek. When the resonant field detects perfect synchrony, when thought and feeling match the result 100%, time becomes zero. Matter has no metaphysical justification to keep showing you scarcity if your vibration is of absolute opulence. Time is the glue that maintains the illusion of separation. By eliminating internal separation, the glue dissolves. While collapsing time for your goals, learn to dilate it for your own operation. The biological machine suffers from a chronic stress called lack of time. This stress contracts your energy field and makes you vibrate in the mass frequency, which slows your manifestations. The dilation protocol demands that you enter the state of absolute presence. When you stop looking at the clock, you win. When you immerse yourself totally in the present, you exit the horizontal timeline, past future, and enter the vertical timeline, the infinite now. In this state, you can perform in 1 hour what takes others a whole day. Your mind becomes sharper, your body moves with more efficiency, and distractions disappear. Temporal immobility, becoming the Lord of Kairos. Practice temporal immobility. Dedicate moments of the day to sitting on your throne and feeling that time stops around you. Visualize the world's second hand frozen while you continue operating at a higher frequency. By claiming independence from social time, you reclaim vital energy the matrix uses to wear you down. You become eternal in the instant, and that eternity is what gives you command over the centuries. In the multiverse of consciousness, there are infinite versions of you. There is a version of you that is already a millionaire, another that is healthy, another that has reached total success. These are not future possibilities. They are current parallel realities. Time is simply the mechanism that prevents you from seeing them all at once. Transmutation of time allows you to perform a quantum leap. Instead of waiting for your timeline to evolve, you simply move your frequency. By inhabiting the memory of the future, you are hooking your consciousness to a different timeline. By holding that frequency without blinking, you force the atomic veil to change the slide. This process may feel strange. You may experience disorientation, vivid dreams, or a feeling that the world is fake. Folding space, the assumption of omnipresence. Do not be afraid. It is the sign that the temporal collapse is occurring. Your old reality is crumbling to make way for the timeline you brought from the future. The architect does not wait for the future to arrive. They kidnap it and install it in the now. Space is the twin brother of time. We believe things are far away because we accept the laws of three-dimensional geometry. But for the divine self, space is only a data construction. If you need a resource that is on the other side of the world, do not think about distance. Think about quantum connection. Everything is connected. At the deepest level of liquid matter, everything is connected instantaneously. By focusing your will on the necessary resource, you create a metaphysical wormhole. You bring the essence of that resource to your field of influence. Space folds to serve the sovereign. Distances shorten and travels become easier. What seemed unreachable due to geographic distance suddenly appears at your door. Omnipresence is not being everywhere. It is being the center where all parts converge. You have mastered the most difficult tool of the manifest universe. You have learned that time is your servant, not your owner. Conclusion, living in consummation. You have collapsed the bridge, you have dilated Kairos, and you have learned to remember the future. You are no longer a prisoner of the calendar. From now on, when you emit a decree, do not ask when. Ask, with what intensity am I inhabiting the result now? Your speed is proportional to your focus. The speed of your manifestation is directly proportional to your ability to ignore the passage of time. The architect is the one who lives in consummation, allowing the clock of the world to simply try to keep up. You are the immovable center. The world is just a movie trying to match your internal speed. Closing operative protocol. During the next 7 days, live in the "it is done." If a thought about waiting time arises, dissolve it with the phrase, "Time does not exist on my throne. The form is already mine." Observe how events begin to accelerate. Observe how the world becomes a fast-motion movie. You remain in the immobile center while the world adjusts. Chapter 9. The Banquet of the Incarnated God. You have passed through the fire of deprogramming. You have collapsed time and tamed liquid matter. But now you face the most subtle challenge of incarnation, the acceptance of divine privilege. Most initiates, even after reaching great levels of metaphysical control, maintain a conqueror mentality. They feel they must snatch miracles from life, that they must do something to deserve beauty, or that abundance is a trophy of war. Welcome to the banquet of the incarnated God. In this protocol, we stop seeing prosperity and health as results of a technique. We move to seeing them as intrinsic properties of our vibratory signature. A God does not achieve being eternal. He is so by nature. A sun does not work to give heat. It emanates heat because it is a sun. The banquet is the state of consciousness where you stop chasing the form to allow the form to serve you with the naturalness of a subject before its sovereign. It is the end of the search and the start of aesthetic inhabitancy. Low-frequency society and spiritual currents have inoculated you with the virus of merit. You have been told you must be good, hardworking, or spiritual for life to reward you. This idea is a technical blasphemy against the divine self. The concept of achievement implies a distance between you and perfection. In the banquet, merit is an obsolete word. You do not deserve abundance. You are the cause of abundance. Beauty is not a luxury you allow yourself. It is the natural geometry of your manifested thought. When you see opulence as an achievement, you are implicitly admitting that you could lose it if you stop achieving it. But when you integrate it as an intrinsic property, like the color of your eyes, scarcity becomes mathematically impossible in your field of influence. The incarnated God does not strive to be rich. He simply does not know how to inhabit poverty because his frequency has no coordinates for it. He is the banquet itself. In Forbidden Metaphysics, beauty is not something subjective or superficial. It is the indicator of atomic harmony. A disordered, ugly, or scarce reality is the symptom of a fragmented consciousness. The protocol of the banquet demands that you raise your aesthetic standards to the level of universal laws. Living under the laws of eternity means that you refuse to accept ugliness as an option. This includes your environment, your body, and your relationships. The incarnated God uses frequential selection. You do not decorate your life to feel better. You decorate your life to inform the atoms that disorder has no permission to enter. Beauty is the seal of coherence. When you surround your body with excellence, when you wear the best silk your consciousness can sustain, and when you inhabit spaces that reflect your internal magnificence, you are performing an act of atomic fixation. You are saying to liquid matter, "This is the minimum standard of my emanation." By not accepting less, the universe is forced to raise the supply to match your level of internal demand. Real abundance is not having a lot of money accumulated. It is having a constant flow supply that responds to each of your needs before they become desires. In the banquet, money becomes a background utility, like oxygen. You do not wake up worried about whether there will be air to breathe. You simply inhale. In the same way, the incarnated God inhales resources. To integrate opulence as an intrinsic property, you must practice the rest of abundance. This means stop monitoring expenses and start monitoring the feeling of fullness. The slave counts what he spends. The sovereign observes how the flow is replenished. If you spend from the consciousness of subtraction, you are creating a void of lack. If you spend from the consciousness of circulation of my own energy, the vacuum immediately attracts more substance. The banquet is the celebration of infinite flow. You do not save out of fear for the future, because you know that the future is a timeline that you yourself are financing with your current presence. In the banquet, health ceases to be a program and becomes a radiation. The body of the incarnated God does not heal. It stays in a state of integrity. It stays whole because the consciousness that inhabits it does not recognize entropy. Old age and decay are collective agreements of the mass. In the banquet, you break those agreements. You integrate vitality as a property of your divine self. You see your cells as extensions of your light, and light does not get sick or wither. Living in the world of form under the laws of eternity means your hardware responds to the timelessness of your software. You do not take care of yourself out of fear of death, but you glorify yourself for love of life. Impeccable health is the physical banquet of divinity. It is the pleasure of inhabiting a perfect vehicle. The protocol of metaphysical luxury inhabitancy. This protocol requires you to conduct an inventory of your acceptance thresholds. What is the maximum you allow yourself to enjoy without feeling guilt? The incarnated God expands these thresholds to infinity. Eradication of pleasure. Guilt. Guilt is the control mechanism used to keep you out of the banquet. You have been taught that sacrifice is noble. In Forbidden Metaphysics, sacrifice is a technical stupidity. Pleasure is the frequency of expansion. Enjoying an exquisite banquet or a perfect jewel is not vanity. It is the recognition of the wealth of the source through you. It is the vibration of the master. The ceremony of belonging. When you see something beautiful or expensive, do not think, "I would like to have that." Think, "That is a reflection of my own nature. It is natural for it to be in my world." By claiming belonging through vibratory affinity, you collapse the distance between you and the object. You bring it to your table. Conscious consumption of excellence. Whenever possible, choose the superior version of things. Not for ego, but for frequency hygiene. Excellence attracts excellence. Mediocrity attracts mediocrity. By choosing the best, you are informing the resonant field that your reception channel is calibrated for high resolution. The incarnated God does not separate his spiritual life from his material life. Everything is a single mass of expression. Your life is the movie you are directing, starring in, and financing. In the banquet, you become an aesthete of existence. Each conversation and each meal must be imbued with the consciousness of eternity. Living under the laws of eternity means you are in no hurry, but you have no delays. You live in a state of present saturation. You are not waiting for something to arrive to start enjoying. You are enjoying what you are so much that the universe despairs to give you more to see how far your capacity for joy goes. This is the final secret of effortless manifestation. The universe loves the one who knows how to enjoy, because enjoyment is the technical gratitude of the consciousness that recognizes itself in form. Most control systems have punished pleasure. They have done so for a technical reason. Pleasure is the state of zero resistance. When you are in deep joy, your frequency is so high that no larva of scarcity or disease can adhere to your field. The banquet is your definitive shield. Here, you will learn to use the sovereignty of desire and the fixation of opulence so that your reality is an uninterrupted reflection of excellence. Understand the physics of joy. Liquid matter at the temperature of your consciousness. Fear and doubt cool matter, making it solid, heavy, and difficult to move. Pleasure, on the contrary, is liquid fire. When you enjoy an exquisite meal or a luxurious fabric, you are raising the temperature of your atoms. In this state of high vibration, manifestation becomes instantaneous. The seeker's error is waiting to have the money to feel pleasure. The protocol of the incarnated God is to feel the pleasure so that money is forced to appear as fuel for that joy. The universe is a hedonistic organism. It flows toward enjoyment. If your life is a constant banquet of appreciation, the supply will never stop, because the field detects that you are an efficient channel for the expansion of wealth. Pleasure is not the result of success. Pleasure is the engine of success. In the banquet, the word need is erased from the dictionary. The divine self needs nothing, because need implies a void, and the void attracts more void. In its place, we install the sovereignty of desire. A divine desire is not a plea. It is an aesthetic choice. You do not desire a new car because you need transport. You desire it because its luxury reflects your magnificence. There is a fundamental technical difference. The slave's desire is born from envy or lack. The god's desire is born from the recognition of beauty. When you desire from sovereignty, there is no anxiety about the result. You simply point to the reality you want and invite it to your table. You are a magnet for opulence. The protocol of excellence saturation. Living under the laws of eternity demands that you saturate your senses with excellence. The matrix surrounds you with ugliness and low-quality products to keep your vibration at a survival level. The protocol of the banquet is an aesthetic rebellion, the purge of the mediocre. Look around you, eliminate the broken or ugly. Those objects are frequency anchors that tell your subconscious you are still a tenant of limitation. The incarnated God prefers one thing of immense value over 100 mediocre things. The touch of opulence. Give your body messages of wealth constantly. Buy the Egyptian cotton. Use the divine perfume. It is not vanity. It is vibratory conditioning. You are teaching your cells to recognize the high-resolution frequency. The architect's view. When walking through luxury, do not look at price tags with fear. Look with the eye of an owner. Feel that those objects already belong to you by right of consciousness. In the banquet, money is not a fetish. It is circular health. Just as blood flows through your veins, money flows through your life to maintain the expansion of your work. The incarnated God treats his finances with the same indifference he treats his breathing. If the flow seems to stop, do not panic. Instead, perform an act of sovereign spending. Buy something that gives you immense pleasure. This act is a direct challenge to the illusion of scarcity. It is a command signal that says, I am the source of the supply. This energy movement breaks the knot of liquid matter and reopens the channels of flow. There is a prescribed property of beauty, its ability to repel interference. A perfectly harmonious and aesthetic environment creates a bubble of coherence that low-level frequencies, conflicts, diseases cannot penetrate. It is like putting a discordant note in a perfect symphony. The structure expels it. Living in the banquet is living in a fortress of beauty. By cultivating excellence in your speech, dress, and dwelling, you are building a high-frequency force field. Ordinary problems simply find no surface to land on in your reality. You become untouchable because you are too harmonious for chaos. Finally, the banquet is an act of worship to the I Am that dwells in you. Every time you allow yourself a moment of supreme joy, you are saying thank you in the only way the Source understands, through resonance. Do not apologize for your success. Do not hide your brilliance to avoid making others uncomfortable. The incarnated God shows his opulence as a lighthouse, demonstrating that limitation is a choice, not a sentence. Your life becomes the banquet that others will want to attend, not to take anything from you, but to learn to light their own fires. You live in form, but you are no longer subject to its entropy. Closing operative protocol. During the next 7 days, perform at least one act of unnecessary luxury each day. It can be small or large, but it must give you pure, guilt-free pleasure. As you do it, affirm internally, this pleasure is my nature. This abundance is my signature. I am the banquet. Observe how the universe responds by giving you more reasons to enjoy. The door of lack has been sealed with gold. You have understood that pleasure is a fire that liquefies matter, and that sovereign desire is an aesthetic choice, not a plea of lack. But for the banquet to be your permanent state and not a sporadic event, you must execute the protocol of the fixation of the golden reality. This consists of making excellence your point of no return. A god cannot return to being human once they have tasted the ambrosia of their own omnipotence. At this stage, abundance stops being something that happens and becomes something that emanates from your pores. It is the end of the distinction between you and your wealth. In Forbidden Metaphysics, money and beauty are physical extensions. These are extensions of your aura. If your aura is gold, your world is gold. There are no fissures through which scarcity can leak because you have sealed your reality with the frequency of total saturation. The greatest obstacle to inhabiting the banquet permanently is a subconscious resistance programmed by the matrix, the fear of envy. This is a slave frequency. The incarnated God operates under the law of non-resistance. You do not defend your abundance, nor do you try to justify it to anyone. Justification is a confession of guilt, and guilt cools the liquid matter. When you receive an immense sum, or or inhabit a perfect space, your response must be an icy naturalness. You must feel it is as normal as the air you breathe. By offering no internal resistance to luxury, luxury stabilizes in your field. It becomes heavy, solid, and permanent. Opulence stays with you because it has found a home that does not question it. The incarnated God possesses a technical tool called the valorizing gaze. The ordinary human looks at the world and sees prices. The architect looks at the world and projects value. When you walk through your personal banquet, your gaze must charge everything it touches with value. By appreciating the curve of fine furniture or the brilliance of a gemstone, you are injecting your own divine light into them. You are informing matter that it has the honor of serving you. This technical appreciation acts as a magnet. The more value you project into what you already have, the more high-value things are sucked into your field of influence. The banquet expands not by effort, but by the pure quality of your observation and your elevated frequency. All human beings have a glass ceiling, a maximum limit of money or pleasure they allow themselves to enjoy before they begin to self-sabotage. In the banquet, this ceiling must be pulverized. The protocol demands that you feel comfortably obscene in your wealth. If you feel too rich, you are signaling a limit and the flow will stop. The incarnated God keeps their channel open to infinity. No matter how much you have, there is always room for more beauty, more expansion, and more impact. Opulence has no end because the source has no end. Living under the laws of eternity means your bank account and your health are connected to a bottomless well. You invest for glory. Finally, the banquet closes with the seal of grace. Grace is the state where you no longer use will to make things happen, but instead allow reality to organize itself around your well-being. It is the pleasure of seeing how doors open before you reach them and how solutions appear before problems are even formulated. Living in grace is the highest level of forbidden metaphysics. It is the recognition that you are the guest of honor in a universe designed exclusively for your delight. Time, space, and matter are the servants bringing the dishes to your table. Your only task is to remain on your throne, enjoying the symphony of forms you summoned. Scarcity is a blurry memory of a life that no longer belongs to you. Illness is a concept your cells have forgotten. The banquet is your eternal now. Closing operative protocol. During the next 3 days, eliminate any trace of worry about cost from your mind. Act with the generosity of one who owns the world's gold mines. If you have to pay for something, do it with the joy of one who knows the sea never runs out of water. Treat your body as a sacred temple that deserves only the purest and the most beautiful. You have integrated abundance. You have reclaimed beauty. You have accepted grace. Chapter 10. The closing of the circle. You have exhausted the protocols of construction. You have manipulated time, liquefied substance, and claimed the banquet of form. But now, at the frontier of mastery, you face the last great division, the idea that there is an I applying a technique upon a reality. The closing of the circle is the protocol designed to collapse this trinity into a single point of impact. It is not a conclusion. It is the final ignition. In Forbidden Metaphysics, the circle closes when the operator no longer needs to do metaphysics because they have become metaphysics embodied. If you still feel that you are applying a step or following an instruction, you are still operating in the duality of the apprentice. The closing of the circle demands the implosion of the subject. It is the moment when the book and the reader recognize themselves as a single coherent frequency. There is no longer an instruction manual. There is a constant emanation. For 9 chapters, you have built an edifice of power using scaffolding, visualizations, decrees, retreats to the 0 point, and cleansings of egregores. That scaffolding was necessary to hold your structure while the cement of your new identity set. But a finished building cannot be inhabited if it remains covered in wood and metal pipes. The protocol of the closing of the circle consists of the demolition of the method. You must stop trying to manifest. The divine self does not manifest. The divine self is, if you keep using technique as a crutch, you are signaling separation. You are informing the resonant field that you still believe there is a gap between your will and matter. The circle closes when the technique becomes as natural as blinking. You do not visualize wealth. You inhabit the frequency where scarcity is a physical impossibility. You do not decree health. You are the molecular harmony. You are the harmony that allows no entry to the noise of the symptom. The technique dies so that the divine nature may be born. In this operative state, the waiting time, the delay spoken of previously, is reduced to its minimum quantum expression. The closing of the circle establishes that the echo must be simultaneous to the shout. The echo, the responsive matter, must match your intention instantly. Imagine you are in an immense canyon. In duality, you shout and wait seconds for the echo to return. In the closing of the circle, you are the canyon, you are the shout, and you are the air carrying the sound. There is no distance to travel. The transmutation of space-time reaches its critical point here. Physical reality ceases to be something that happens after and begins to happen with. When you walk, reality unfolds under your feet milliseconds before you step. You are not predicting the future. You are emitting the present with absolute authority. Matter has no time to doubt. It is the dictator's synchrony. Every event that occurs in your field of vision is instantly recognized as a fragment of your own emanation. You no longer ask, why did this happen? You say, this is my echo, and I recognize it as my work. By recognizing it, the circle is sealed and reality is fixed. The most prescribed protocol of this chapter is the recognition of soul authorship. Until now, you may have felt that the universe or energy helped you. That ends today. In the closing of the circle, you accept the terrifying and glorious truth. There is no other force operating in your life but you. Any idea of external aid is a power leak. If you believe an outside force gives to you, you must also believe an outside force can take from you. The closing of the circle closes all emergency exits. You are left alone on the throne, but it is an absolute and divine solitude. You are the programmer who has entered the source code. You have erased the distinction between the user and the system. By closing the circle, the teaching dissolves. You no longer need to seek more information, because all information is a byproduct of your own consciousness. The book in your hands or the audio you hear is simply a mirror, where your divinity adjusts its crown. Once adjusted, the mirror is no longer necessary. What remains is pure emanation, an uninterrupted flow of will that finds no resistance because there is no longer anyone outside who can oppose it. Physically, the closing of the circle manifests as a calm that the human mind would qualify as unnatural. It is the silence of consummation. You no longer feel the need to talk about your plans, validate your theories, or seek proof of your power. The proofs are in the air you breathe and the ground you step on. This silence is your ultimate weapon. It is an atmospheric pressure that bends the will of egregores. It bends the will of those who still inhabit the matrix. When you enter a room in this state, the reality of others adjusts to yours without you saying a word. You have closed the circle of your influence. You are a high-definition reality emitter. While others see chaos, you see the patterns of your own design. While others see chance, you see the precision of your own decree. The circle is the impassable frontier of your kingdom. Closing the circle means living in the eternal now operatively. There is no better day to come. This is the banquet. This is the throne. This is the life of the incarnated God. Eternal inhabitancy consists of treating each second as the consummation of your entire history. You are not going anywhere. You have already arrived. Each action you perform, from the trivial to the grand, is an act of finished sovereignty. There is nothing to add to the perfection of your I am. In this state, abundance, health, and command are not things you possess. They are things that define you. If the circle is closed, nothing can leave and nothing strange can enter. You are the closed circuit of perfect creation. The final state of mastery is not constant vigilance, but the total surrender of form. In the emanation without subject, effort disappears completely because you have stopped being the operator of a reality to become its source of energy. Here, command transforms into an automatic process. Similar to gravity, you do not need to think about it to attract bodies toward the center. Your reality expands, organizes, and beautifies simply because you are there, inhabiting the center of the circle of your own existence. A sun does not have to remember every morning to emit light. It emits light because that is its atomic definition. In this technical phase, you stop emitting specific decrees. You emit a permanent state frequency. You no longer seek specific results in the physical world. You radiate a state of fullness that allows nothing less than excellence to manifest on your radar. This radiation saturates the substance of the world 24 hours a day. It is a constant flow independent of conscious attention. Matter around you sets automatically into forms of opulence and health because it finds no other instruction in your field. You are a power station only emitting the signal of perfection, and the physical universe is the forced receiver that must reproduce that signal without distortion. The circle is sealed. The source and the reflection are now one. Non-dual operativity is the state where you stop seeing your life as something that happens to you and start feeling it as something you are being. You no longer see finances as numbers on a screen. You feel them as the density of your own energy body. You do not see your body as an object to be healed. You feel it as the vibration of your own harmony. This fusion eliminates friction at the root. Where there is separation, there is resistance and delay. When there is total unity, flow is instantaneous. Moving reality in this state is as simple as moving a finger. You do not need to convince matter to change, because matter is your own extended tissue. If you decide an event must occur, the tissue of space-time contracts immediately so it happens, because you are no longer outside the event trying to attract it. You are the event in its phase of idea and form. To maintain an empire without the exhaustion of vigilance, you install the divine gyroscope. This consists of fixing your base frequency at a level so high that any deviation, any residue of doubt or appearance of conflict, is automatically corrected by the inertia of your own power. Imagine a perfect gyroscope that always returns to its vertical center by pure physics. Your consciousness becomes that center. If a shadow appears in your world, your base frequency is so potent it dissolves it before your logical mind labels it a problem. You do not have to fight anomalies. Anomalies disintegrate upon contact with your atmosphere of sovereignty. Emanation without subject means your well-being no longer depends on effort. It depends on your established identity. The definitive sign of consummation is the absolute disappearance of effort. Success is no longer a climb. Success is a free fall into glory. You let yourself fall into your own omnipotence with the confidence that the ground will rise to support you. In this state, things happen with an elegance human logic cannot explain. Doors open before you touch them, and resources appear at the moment of need. Grace is the state where the law of cause and effect surrenders to the law of presence. You no longer cause things. You are the sole cause. This is the ultimate freedom. Knowing the universe is a precision mechanism that responds to your subtlest vibration without you moving a single physical muscle. By inhabiting the emanation without subject, you become an anchor point for reality. Without words, your mere presence alters the frequency of all around you. You have passed from being a seeker of truths to being truth in action. The silence of consummation is your greatest eloquence. Your reign has begun not because you won a battle, but because you stopped recognizing the existence of any opponent. The circle is closed. Duality has been eradicated. Only pure existence remains operating on the stage of form with the total authority of one who has remembered that the world is their own creation. The law of the invariability of command. In Forbidden Metaphysics, the greatest power is not the one that performs miracles, but the one that maintains invariability. Most people experience peaks of success followed by valleys of scarcity because their command is erratic. Their frequency rises and falls according to the news of the world. The protocol of invariability demands that your internal state be independent of external appearance until external appearance surrenders to your firmness. This is the fixation of reality. When you decide that I am wealth, you do not allow a temporary bank balance or a delay in payments to alter your frequency by a single millimeter. If you remain invariable, the liquid matter is forced to crystallize in the form of your decree because it finds no crack through which to leak doubt. Absolute reality is that which you have decided is true. Period. There is no negotiation. No maybe. No we'll see. Your word is the anchor that fixes the world in its position of service to you. The protocol of destiny absorption. Until now, you might have felt that destiny was an external force you had to deal with. In the closing of the circle, you execute the absorption of destiny. You recognize that there is no timeline pre-written by anyone other than yourself. Destiny is simply the name that slaves give to their own creative ignorance. By absorbing your destiny, you claim total responsibility for every shadow and every light on your path. If you do not like something, you do not blame luck. You dissolve it from your command center with the same naturalness with which you erase an error on a blackboard. You become a navigator of probabilities who always chooses the route. You choose the route of greatest glory, greatest pleasure, and greatest impact. Destiny ceases to be a threat to become your red carpet. You walk with the security of one who knows that every event has been designed by their own superior wisdom for their final delight. The transparency of form. Seeing through the veil. In this stage of consummation, your physical eyes begin to operate differently. You begin to experience the transparency of form. When you look at a solid object or a complex situation, you no longer see hardness or difficulty. You see the information that sustains it. You see the threads of light of your own thought interwoven with matter. This vision allows you to operate with a terrifying speed. You can feel when a situation is about to change, and you can tip the balance with a simple sigh of consciousness. Reality becomes transparent because you no longer have secrets from yourself. You have stopped hiding your power behind the mask of human humility. You have accepted the weight of your divinity. By being transparent to yourself, the world becomes transparent to you. There are no more walls, only doors that open before you touch them. To live in the closing of the circle is to live in the seal of eternity. You no longer project your happiness into the future, nor your guilt into the past. You understand that the now is the only possible ignition point. In this now, you are everything you ever wanted to be. You are not on your way. You have already arrived. You are not healing. You are already health. You are not attracting money. You are already the source of all supply. This seal is what prevents entropy from touching your life. Entropy, disorder and wear, only occurs in linear time. In the closed circle of the eternal now, only constant expansion exists. Your life becomes a work of art that is never finished, but rather embellished every second with new layers of perfection. You are the collector of your own miracles, observing with pleasure how each of your previous decrees has become the solid foundation of your glorious present. Finally, the protocol of consummation invites you to the sovereign's rest. It is not the rest of one who withdraws from the world, but the rest of one who knows the world is under control. It is the peace of knowing that your will is the supreme law of your personal universe. You no longer fight with people, or with governments, or with economies. You withdraw from conflict because conflict requires two parties, and you have decided to be the only party that matters. By offering no resistance, opposition dissolves. By recognizing no enemies, enemies disappear. You remain in the silence of your own victory, enjoying opulence, health, and command as if they were as natural as air. You have completed the cycle. The man has died so that the God can walk upon the earth. The conclusion of Forbidden Metaphysics, the Absolute Architect. You have passed through the fire of deprogramming and walked the corridors of invisible architecture. You have murdered the idols of external devotion, liquefied the false solidity of matter, occupied the throne of consciousness, and learned to treat reality as the docile clay it always was, without asking permission from the laws of the masses. Now, reaching the final threshold of this grimoire, you face the rawest, most prescribed and magnificent truth. The book has ended because you have begun. The conclusion of Forbidden Metaphysics is not a narrative closure, nor a summary of what has been learned. It is the collapse of the seeker. During this process, there was a you who sought power, health, and opulence. That character, the seeker, has died of metaphysical asphyxiation. What remains now is the absolute architect, the one who does not seek results because they know they are the origin of all form. In this consummation, we seal your sovereignty with the protocol of immanence. We ensure that the command you have claimed is not a transitory state, but the immovable structure of your eternal existence. And the end of the search, the dissolution of how. The most persistent and sophisticated trap of the matrix is keeping you in the perpetual state of student or initiate. The system wants you always consuming the next book, attending the next workshop, seeking the next secret technique or definitive hack. While you seek the how, you are vibratorily confessing that you lack the what. You are affirming that power is something to be acquired, when in reality, power is something to be admitted. In this conclusion, the how is completely extinguished. Understand this with the coldness of a diamond. There is nothing more to learn. Metaphysics is not an accumulation of external data. It is a surgical removal of interference. You have cleared the channel. You have remembered the command protocols. Any further attempt to continue searching outside of yourself is an act of high treason against your divine self. The circle has closed, and within that circle, you are the highest legislative authority. The how the money arrives, the how biological tissue regenerates, or the how the doors of opportunity open is no longer your operative concern. It is the slave labor of liquid matter, which now operates under your permanent command subscription. The architect gives the order. Matter finds the route of least resistance to fulfill it. 2. The sovereignty of presence, the state of no struggle. From this second forward, your only task is presence. It is not a passive or contemplative presence, but a gravitational presence. In physics, a body with great mass attracts smaller objects toward its center without making any conscious effort. It simply exists, and its density bends space around it. You have increased your metaphysical mass through these protocols. Your consciousness is now so dense, so coherent, and so centered in the I Am that abundance, beauty, and harmony are sucked into your life by the pure physical necessity of the universe. To live in sovereignty is to live in no struggle. Struggle is the frequency of the slave who believes the world is a hostile or scarce place. The sovereign does not struggle against the shadow. The sovereign establishes the light. If a challenge or appearance of opposition arises, you do not give it the honor of your resistance, because resistance is the glue of reality. You give it the decree of your divine indifference. By not recognizing opposition as something real or with authority, opposition loses its energetic substrate and dissolves into the void from which it came. You have become a being who walks through the atomic veil with the security of one who knows the stage is being built. Third, the seal of the golden reality, the invariability of command. The conclusion of your transformation is measured by your capacity for invariability. The ordinary human is an emotional thermometer, rising and falling according to the temperature of their environment, their finances, or their relationships. The divine self is a metaphysical thermostat. The divine self sets the temperature of its reality, and the environment must adjust to it, no matter how much it tries to resist at first. Seal your reality with the frequency of gold. Gold does not rust with time, is not corrupted by the environment, and maintains its intrinsic value in any market or crisis. Your consciousness must be that gold. Do not allow the appearance of transitory shadows, news of global crisis, temporary physical symptoms, or doubts from mediocre minds to alter the frequency of your throne by a single millimeter. If you remain invariable in your assumption of I am opulence, reality must collapse into that form. Matter is lazy and tends toward entropy, but it is absolutely obedient to the pressure of a will that does not blink. You have won the right to be the anchor of your own universe, the fixed point around which chaos orders itself. IV, the ethics of the incarnated God, power is joy. Many ask, from the residue of their old morality, what should I do now with this power? The answer of Forbidden Metaphysics is, enjoy form until saturation. The purpose of creation is not sacrifice, but the expansion of joy through individualized consciousness. A bitter, worried, austere, or fearful God is a technical contradiction and a waste of energy. Your mission is to be the living testimony that limitation is an optional choice, not a divine sentence. Your opulence is not to show off before slaves, but to radiate the standard of excellence. Your health is not to last more years, but to glorify the inhabitancy of light. Your command is not to oppress the will of others, but to order your personal kingdom. By living in the constant banquet, you become a point of high-frequency light that alters the magnetic grid of the earth by mere proximity. You do not need to save anyone. You only need to be so immensely happy, rich, and powerful that others are forced to question their own chains. Your life is now the only book of metaphysics the world needs to read to awaken. V. The dissolution of effort and technical grace. In this phase of consummation, effort becomes an archaic concept. The divine self operates with an elegance that the human mind qualifies as miraculous, but which for the architect is simple frequential efficiency. Things are no longer attained, things are allowed. You have passed from pushing reality to being the flow in which reality slides. This is technical grace. It is the state where the law of cause and effect surrenders before the law of sovereign presence. You no longer cause things through exhausting physical actions. You are the sole cause. You emit the order from the silence of the throne. This is ultimate freedom, knowing that the universe is a clockwork mechanism that you yourself have designed, and that you now simply observe with the satisfaction of the creator who has finished their masterpiece and prepares to enjoy the landscape. Fatigue disappears because there is no longer internal division. You are a closed-loop energy system that feeds back on its own success. VI, the legacy of operative invisibility. As you close this grimoire, you take with you the weapon of sigil. You do not need the world to validate your power. In fact, the world must not know how you do it. Invisibility protects the purity of your creative process. While others debate theories and lose themselves in the dialectic of doubt, you manifest in silence. Your results are your only voice. The forbidden architect is an operator who moves among the masses without being detected by the radars of collective fear. You can dress like a common man, but your frequency is that of a sun. You can speak the language of the people, but your words carry the weight of atomic decree. By keeping the secret of your throne, you maintain the internal pressure necessary for liquid matter to crystallize with mathematical precision. Silence is the seal of the gods. Chatter is the leakage of men. 7. The final silence. The return to the origin. This grimoire began with words, with protocols, and with shock instructions. It ends in the silence of consummation. The words have been the fingers pointing to the moon of your own divinity. Once you have fixed your sight on the moon, the fingers are hindrances that must be removed. The silence you now feel in your center is not emptiness, nor is it solitude. It is the absolute fullness of the source that has returned home after a long journey through the illusion of separation. You have completed the circle. The man or woman who began reading these protocols has disappeared in the process. In their place remains the architect who has recovered their eternal memory. Time has stopped in the eternal now. Space has contracted under your feet. Matter has become transparent before your gaze. There is no longer anything to ask of heaven, because you are heaven. There is nothing to seek on earth, because you are the owner of the earth. You are the I Am, without attributes, operating in the banquet of form. You are the Alpha and the Omega of your own destiny. You are the law, you are the word, and you are the seal. The work is not finished. The work is you. Final operative protocol of eternal closure. Close your physical eyes for the last time as an apprentice. Take a deep, slow breath, inhaling the totality of your empire and exhaling any last residue of limited humanity or ancestral fear. Feel the real weight of the crown of light upon your consciousness. Upon opening your eyes, do not look at the world to discover what is in it. Look at it to dictate what is there. Walk with the majesty of one who knows that the entire universe bows before their presence. You have reclaimed your inheritance. The gate of limitation has been sealed forever. Glory is your natural state. I am that I am. It is done. It is. End of the protocols of Forbidden Metaphysics.